to the pandemic. I hope you will enjoy this evening. Now please give a warm welcome to the hosts of this evening, the Ambassador of the Republic of Austria to Indonesia, Timor-Leste, and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, His Excellency Dr. Thomas Leudel, Mrs. Teresa Leudel, and our guest of honor, the Minister of Manpower of the Republic of Indonesia, Her Excellency Dr. Hashar Ida Fausia, Master of Science. The reception will start shortly. We would appreciate it if all guests could kindly put their mobile phones on silent mode.
You go front, I go right. Yes, that's right.
The Jakarta Concert Orchestra Trio and the Batavia Madrigal Singers will now perform the national anthems of Austria and Indonesia and the anthem of the European Union.
Excellencies.
No? Sorry. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, please welcome the Ambassador of the Republic of Austria, His Excellency Dr. Thomas Doyle, to the stage.
Good evening. Your Excellency, the Minister of Manpower, Mrs. Ida Forsier, distinguished ambassadors and members of the diplomatic corps, liebe Auslandsösterreicherinnen und Auslandsösterreicher, dear representatives of Austrian companies and Austrian institutions in Indonesia, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure for me to welcome you to the reception on the occasion of the Austrian National Day. The Austrian National Day is actually celebrated on the 26th of October to remember when in 1955 the constitutional law on the status of the permanent neutrality of Austria was passed. This reception, for various reasons, takes place towards the end of the year and is therefore an appropriate occasion to look back and reflect on 2022 and the relationship between Indonesia and Austria. The diplomatic relations between our two countries were established back in 1954, and in these 68 years, Indonesia and Austria have built a close relationship in many areas, so that our bilateral relations now rest on solid foundations characterized by friendship and mutual trust. We all experienced 2022 as a year of unprecedented challenges, and we were all confronted with several crises at the same time. The pandemic is still with us. We witness and suffer from an illegal and unacceptable war of aggression against Ukraine, with severe negative consequences to our economies. And at the same time, we face an increasingly warming planet, coupled with a dramatic loss of biodiversity in the ecosystems of far too many countries. In this challenging year, Indonesia once again was an important and most of all reliable partner for Austria, politically and economically. Despite all these geopolitical, economic and environmental difficulties, 2022 was also a year of progress and successes in the bilateral relationship between Indonesia and Austria. The loosening of COVID restrictions in the course of last year made traveling between Asia and Europe again possible and led to a resumption of bilateral visits between Indonesia and Austria. Your Excellency, Mrs. Forsier, you yourself visited Austria on an official mission before the European summer, and only a few weeks ago, in November, the Austrian Federal Minister for Labour and Economic Affairs was, together with a large delegation in Jakarta, to discuss inter alia labour and economic issues, as well as issues in our both tourism sectors. On 25th November, just a few days ago, bilateral political consultations between Austria and Indonesia were successfully held in Vienna, and an agreement on cooperation in the field of interfaith dialogue was concluded. The conclusion of this arrangement was a first for Indonesia and one of the first of such arrangements for Austria. Trade relations and commercial exchanges are of particular importance for both our countries. After a dent in the trade relations due to the pandemic in 2020 and 2021, the overall trend of our export data for this year again show a healthy growth and a renewed increase in our commercial exchanges. Let me on this occasion express my hope, or better my conviction, that the conclusion of the negotiations and finally the entry into force of the envisaged agreement on comprehensive economic cooperation between Indonesia and the European Union will lead to an enhanced and more efficient market access for both Indonesian businesses in Austria and Austrian businesses here in Indonesia. In 2022, Indonesia has shouldered responsibility in global and regional multilateral institutions and thereby contributed to act on and to help solve global challenges. I would like to congratulate Indonesia for a successful chairmanship of the G20 under very difficult circumstances, and I am convinced that in the same manner, Indonesia will deliver a successful chairmanship of ASEAN over the coming months. Between 2020 and the end of 2022, Indonesia is a member of the UN Human Rights Council, and despite some differences on some issues, Austria and Indonesia productively cooperated during this period, as we witnessed in the recent Universal Periodic Review of Indonesia before the Council. Our relationship, however, is much wider than political cooperation, bilateral trade, and cooperation in multilateral institutions. In both our countries, we are proud of our culture, and we are proud to have preserved our cultural traditions. Whoever had the chance to visit Indonesia, and all of you know this very well, is fascinated by its rich and diverse culture and its long history. So what binds Indonesia and Austria truly together are the exchanges on a people-to-people level. The again rapidly growing number of tourists in both directions during the last month in 2022 contribute to an even better mutual understanding and will thereby enhance the trust that underpins our relationship. The challenges will continue in 2023, but we will again master them together. This reception, distinguished guests, could not have taken place without the generous support of Austrian companies and Austrian institutions in Indonesia. I am thoroughly grateful to the following partners and would like to thank them for their support. EEE Austria International Projects, Global Hydro Indonesia, Linsinger Maschinenbau, Plaza Far East Limited, PT Andritz Hydro, PT Euroasiatic China, PT Siemens Indonesia, Raiffeisen Bank International Singapore Branch, Wamel Engineering, and Zinc Power Austria. I would like to end my speech on a personal note, as 2022 was also the year in which my family and I returned to Indonesia after almost 20 years. Since our arrival a few months ago, I was quite often asked what has changed in Indonesia in those 2 decades. In my experience so far, many things have changed, and many to the better. Indonesia has experienced rapid economic development. Many sectors in Indonesia underwent an enormous technological transformation, and the roots of the democratic system have deepened and were strengthened in the last 2 decades. Thankfully, however, many things also stayed the same. I've already mentioned them before. The richness and diversity of Indonesian culture and the warmth and generosity of the Indonesian people. Thank you, Indonesia, for receiving me and my family back so gracefully and so generously. May everyone enjoy this evening with Austrian delicacies and Austrian music. Thank you very much. Thank you.